We are now 1 week away from the Carney government's first federal budget, and today in question period, the Liberals and Conservatives continue to spar over whether a bigger spend is what Canadians need.
It's clear that the member opposite is driving for a Christmas election, and I really hope that's not true, because Canadians are counting on us to pass this budget, to make the school food program permanent.
If they want their budget passed, they have to make it an affordable budget so that there's affordable food and affordable quality of life for the Canadian people.
Now, speaking to my colleague Rosemary Barton in an interview that aired on Sunday, the Liberal House leader, Stephen McKinnon, said he still hasn't found the support he needs to get the budget passed.
As we speak right now, we don't have the votes. The opposition parties will have to determine whether the differences between us are sufficiently large to cause the Canadians to go to the polls.
Okay, joining me now is the leader of one of the parties who could give the Liberals the vote they need, or Don Davies, the interim leader of the NDP, you could force us to the polls. It's good to see you. Thanks for coming in today.
Pleasure to be with you, David.
Steve McKinnon seems a little bit mystified you haven't decided to support a budget you have not yet seen. But where are our conversations right now with the Liberals on what you might do after November 4th?
Well, where I'd like to start, David, is the context for this budget, the first one in 18 months, by the way. Canadians are really struggling. Prices are sky high. The jobless numbers are soaring. Economic growth is weak, and of course we continue to face serious problems from south of the border with the tariffs. So it's in that circumstance that we face a budget, and so New Democrats have been very clear that we think now is the time to invest. And it's an opportunity for us to actually grow as an economy. So that means investing in Canadian communities, Canadian companies, Canadian workers, and Canadian infrastructure.
Right.
So we'd like to see an investment-oriented budget, not one based on austerity, which is what I think the Conservatives and maybe even Mr. Carney want.
Yes, I mean, he did use that word, but I don't think his definition of that and other, are necessarily the same thing. But we'll see on November 4th. But when you say investment, because that's a word that means different things to different people on different parts of the political spectrum, are you talking about direct supports to individuals, which is not my sense of where they're going, or do you talk about the economic transformation investments that they are telling Canadians that they're going to try to deliver?
Well, I think they take a variety of forms. It could be everything from investment tax credits to direct investment. Look, there's a almost $300 billion infrastructure deficit in Canada. And there's no shortage of great projects that we need all across this country, from clean water supplies to, to refuge stations, to highways, to ports, to community infrastructure, things cities need. So we think facing the economic problems that we're facing is now's a good time to invest in those projects, which Canada needs, puts people to work, creates good jobs, and addresses a growing infrastructure deficit that has to be addressed at some point.
So going back to the austerity phrase, because the Liberals and the Prime Minister have promised no cuts to transfers to individuals or to provinces, and existing social programs like pharmacare will remain untouched. What would be something that they are talking about, for example, reducing the civil service through attrition? What is something that is a non-starter for the New Democrats in terms of your support for this budget on that side of it all?
Well, we've said that we can't accept an austerity approach, and that was a word that the Prime Minister himself used.
Yep.
I hear that he's walking that back a little bit, and it is a little difficult to define. But what we've seen from this government is a pretty right-wing approach to running the country. It's been tax cuts and then cuts to services. I mean, any right-wing government in Canadian history, or frankly in any similar system, that's the game plan for right-wing approaches to the economy. As a progressive party, we resist that, and we think now is the time again to invest in people. And healthy economies need healthy workforces. We do think that Canada, it's a time for us to become more self-sufficient. With the Americans being so aggressive towards us, isn't now the time, we think, to build our resiliency, to get more value from our raw resources, to become more self-sufficient, build more things here, diversify our trade? This is the kind of economic development opportunity that we see in front of us, and that requires investment, not cuts.
So where are your conversations with the government on this? Because you heard what Stephen McKinnon had to say, and I don't know if this is sort of the drama of a minority parliament or if they're sincerely worried about the budget failing, but where are your conversations with the Liberals about what your bottom line is for either supporting it or abstaining on the budget to allow it to pass?
Well, we've been really clear and public and transparent about our position. You know, we said we're going to wait and see what the budget says. I think that's the only responsible thing for an opposition party to do.
I think it's prudent before you vote. Yes, before you vote.
Yeah, well, you know, the Bloc and the Conservatives seem to are opposing something they haven't even read yet. I think that's irresponsible. We have said that we want to examine this through the lens of whether this is good for working families. We've identified some broad goals that we want to see this budget accomplish, including creating good family-sustaining jobs, building affordable housing, and sustaining and strengthening our healthcare system. We've also been very specific and public about a number of creative ideas. We've called for a youth climate corps, which would put young people to work. As you know, youth unemployment is frankly atrocious. Putting young people to work in communities across this country, helping them get more resilient, we think is a good investment. We've talked about an east-west energy grid, frankly, even north, to have clean electricity across our country.
There's some of that in the major project concepts. Some of it, right, to the north, to Nunavut in particular.
Yes, and there's even been some of the projects that have been identified by Prime Minister Carney, I think are good, including the high-speed rail network from Windsor to Quebec City, development of certain mines with Indigenous partnerships in British Columbia. So these are the kind of things that we're looking for in the budget, and not cutting services that Canadians rely on, especially at a time when so many people are suffering. You know, inflation is still out of control. Numbers a week ago showed that rent or groceries are going up 4% and rent at 4.8%, almost 10% in Quebec. So Canadians are really suffering. So cutting services they need right now is the wrong thing to do.
Yeah, there's not a lot a government can do on food inflation, though, it seems, right? Like so much of that's climate related, trade related, you know, a bunch of things. So I don't know what you can do there. I mean, it's a helpless feeling to have an obvious problem that's making people. Is there a policy solution you could see on food prices in particular, or is it just supporting Canadians in other areas so as not to compound the financial challenges?
I think it's the latter, David.
Right.
You know, I mean, they say when you're digging a hole, the first thing you got to stop doing is digging.
Yeah.
So I don't think we should exacerbate the problem. So we may not have quick policy fixes for some of these things, but let's not make the problem worse by making working families, you know, have to struggle even more. So they need help right now, and the NDP is here in this Parliament to make it work, to provide positive suggestions to the government that we think will accomplish that.
The positive suggestions, the policy, the details of the budget, they're all one part of it, but then there is politics, as we are well aware. It'd be very difficult, it seems to me, for the Conservatives, with Mr. Poilievre facing a leadership review, to vote for Mark Carney's first budget, just given the dynamic there, and the Bloc, who lost a lot of seats in Quebec to the Liberals, and maybe going into a situation where supply management could be a target in trade. What are the other parties saying to the New Democrats, the Conservatives in particular, about the vote on the budget? Because you're the get-out-of-jail-free card for them if you don't force them to allow Mark Carney's first budget to pass.
Well, I'm going to answer that in two ways, David. First of all, I'm a Jack Layton New Democrat. He was the leader that I was first elected with. And I always remember him saying it's our first obligation as parliamentarians to try to make Parliament work. So we have to not only be oppositional, but propositional. So we're here to try to address the very real problems Canadians are facing. That's number one. Right. This is not about us. It's not about politics. It's about facing the serious issues facing our country at, I think, a very vulnerable time for Canadians. At the same time, I think there's a battle for narrative here. We're not the government. Prime Minister Carney is the Prime Minister. They keep saying they have a mandate. With a mandate comes responsibility. It's up to them to craft a budget that can earn the support of one of the three opposition parties at least. It's not up to the opposition.
Oh, I get it.
But this is not what the Liberals are saying. The Liberals seem to be blaming the opposition if there's an election. And frankly, I would turn that around and say any election that's coming, which I agree Canadians don't really want or need at this point, is entirely up to Mr. Carney because he holds the pen. He drafts the budget, and they have not invited other parties in to really craft the budget in a way that I think they should have in a minority situation. So they run the risk of not earning our support.
But I wonder about that, and I do appreciate the battle for narrative point, because there is a lot of I don't want to say false drama, but maybe torqued drama, overhyped drama in a minority parliament. But Mr. Carney did win this election. His party did win this election with just shy of a majority government. If the first budget delivers things that are broadly in line with the mandate they were given, it may not have everything you wanted, but if it's broadly in line with what Canadians voted for on April 28th, do you really think we're at risk of a Christmas election? What is your view on that as the interim leader of the NDP?
Well, you know, when you're just shy of a majority, it means you don't have one.
Good point.
There's no close. You either have a majority or you don't. So he has a minority government. So Mr. Carney has to craft a budget that will earn our support. We're going to examine the budget as a whole. We recognize budgets. They have things you like, things you don't like.
But if there's no poison pill in there, you know what I mean? Like if it is sort of things that they ran on and say they're going to do, like, I mean, what do you think? I'm trying to pin you down now. I know I can't, but
yeah, it's well, because it's hard to know, David. There's so many moving pieces in a budget that's usually as thick as a phone book, and there's so many important areas that we just have to view it broadly and holistically. Again, New Democrats, does it create good jobs? Does it build affordable housing? Does it protect healthcare? Does it respond to people's affordability problems that they're facing right now? These are our main lenses. Does this help working people? And you know, we couldn't be clearer than that with the government, as well as the multitude of specific policies and programs we've suggested. So we'll see on Tuesday. We'll give it a very honest and thorough read, and we'll see what happens.
For the young people watching at home, a phone book is a big, thick book with everybody's phone numbers in it. It used to come to your house by mail.
We're showing my age.
You know, like, you don't know how you're going to vote. Is there a world where you might not show up, where you could abstain, where the NDP stays away rather than force an election? Is that an option you would consider at all?
You know, I think at this point, it's hard to be hypothetical, you know, again, about a budget I haven't seen. It depends how good or bad it is. All options are on the table. We're going to give it an honest look. We're going to be very propositional and positive about this budget, and we'll vote according to the principles and values we have and the people that sent us here.
Okay. Don Davies, I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate the time. That's Don Davies, the interim leader of the NDP. Thank you, sir.
As a European, I am a
European.
European, actually.
Oh, you are?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
oh.
I'm Irish citizen. Yeah, so there you
welcome.
go.
Welcome.
Speaking as a European.
WTF.
Here, here.
How many kids did you molest with Jeffrey Epstein?
More than just elbows.
And as the most European of the non-European countries.
Being aware of what potential conflicts of interest you
What
sought
possible
to avoid.
conflict would you have, Stephanie? Stephanie, I'm complying with the rules. I'm complying with the rules in advance. Confiance.
These are Muslim values. These are Canadian values.
Hi, everyone. Congratulations, you're spending more money on taxes than on food, clothing, and shelter combined.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
All right, gang, thank you all very much for watching. Aaron, Canadian Looney, like, share, subscribe. Smash that subscribe. We're trying to grow this thing. Canadian Federal Politics. Get yours right here. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next video.